Well, howdy, folks. Kdog actually going back to the movies this time. As you can see, we are at the AMC Classic 12 Theater. We're going to go see The Batman. Yeah, so stay tuned for the review, and yeah. So let's go and see. Okay, so The Batman came out just this weekend, and it's the first movie I've seen in several months. Actually, returning to the theater. Uh, Actually, the Marion Theater was the first time I had been there in a couple years since COVID hit. But yeah, The Batman. This film was, gee, this film has a lot going for it. I really appreciated this film. I think the bar was set so high by Christopher Nolan that you know it's going to be difficult to top. So let's get into this. We have Robert Pattinson playing Batman Bruce Wayne, and quickly we're introduced to the Gotham and the city that the entire environment that Batman is currently living in. Yeah, completely different from the Nolanverse and completely different from Tim Burton. This is definitely grounded in more reality. And so you have rioters and public unrest. It's actually kind of relevant what we've been going through in the past few years with the elections and protests and peaceful protests and whatnot. And so a lot of that was incorporated into this film and kind of integrated into and we have all these politicians in the film that are being killed off, and Batman's called in to help solve the crime with Commissioner Gordon, because already by this time this is not an origin story whatsoever. Everything is pretty much established in this film. And so we have Commissioner Gordon, this time played by Jeffrey Wright, from TV's Westworld, and he's been in the Hunger Games films, and yeah, he's Commissioner Gordon. So Batman and Commissioner Gordon are working together. Actually, Commissioner Gordon calls in Batman because it's, like I said, everything is established already that Batman is not necessarily, he's not a, yeah, he is for justice and crime fighting, but the problem is what Batman does is actually vigilante justice, and it is against the law. Basically, you cannot take the law into your own hands. Okay, so he's this vigilante person, and the cops hate him. And Gordon is the only one that knows that this guy's good, and he's willing to cooperate. Just give him a chance. And so all these politicians are being killed off, and every time that a politician or somebody is killed, there's a little note that is left with a card with a riddle to solve. So you see where I'm going with this. The villain in this film is the Riddler. Okay? And the Riddler here is played by Paul Dano. Wonderful character actor. And so, just like in previous adaptations of the Riddler, that there's a note delivered, but not to this extent. That when someone's killed, that's when the Riddler leaves a note. And Batman is quick to solve these riddles. And it's... I'll get into that in a minute about what I think. The Riddler is, again, the main villain here. But also you have the Penguin and Falcone, the mob boss. And you have John Turturro playing Falcone. And then you have... then this was a shock, because I didn't even recognize the guy. Colin Farrell is playing the Penguin. And it doesn't even look like him. They did a really good job with the makeup and prosthetics too. And plus his performance, just really that was Colin Farrell. And, but anyway, they run at this club, an underground club, where they are part of the mob, and there's some girls abused, and there's some... I don't want to say that there's a little bit of drugs going on, but this is PG-13, so they had some limits. But then also when Batman first goes to this club, he discovers who's running it. That's when he meets Selina Kyle, Catwoman, played here by Zoe Kravitz. I almost want to say Zoe Saldana, but no, it's Zoe Kravitz, Lenny Kravitz's daughter. And she brings... she allows Batman, to... She's the one that tells him, that this is all mob controlled. There's a club that the general public goes to, that are members to, and then there's the club within the club. And of course, one of her friends is killed by one of John Turturro's men. And because she's this, she's an immigrant. I forget what she's a European immigrant, and she's killed eventually. So spoiler alert. And so the whole entire time that we meet Catwoman, Catwoman is trying to seek vengeance against these men. But then something that later develops that that she tells Batman about her past, the reason why she's really seeking vengeance, not because of her friend, but also because of who she, where she comes from, who her parents are. And yeah, there's a little bit more of a story there. And of course, it does tap in a little bit to Bruce Wayne's past, and we know the story about his parents being murdered, and that at one point in time that they incorporated a story that one time that Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father, was considered to run for public office in Gotham. And the whole climax of the movie ends in a basketball arena where a politician wins an election, it's, you know, it's their celebratory party that they had. You know, like you see this all the time on when a presidential candidate wins. You know, they have some arena where their true voters and supporters are there, and with the signs and, you know, and all that. So this is what's going on. But the Riddler's group, his minions, are there to do damage as well. But also, like I said, every time that's a politician is killed off, he leaves a card. And the Riddler usually says, "No more lies," to this politician. And you'd find out that these politicians and police officers all belong to this club. And so it's up to Batman to stop the Riddler and put him behind bars and seek justice. And of course, you do see Batman's limitations. You know, he refuses to kill. He has no problem beating up somebody and getting them to confess, getting them to talk. But there is no killing, because there's one point where Catwoman says, "We need to kill this. Need to kill these guys," and he says no, and he explains why. Because he said, if you kill them, you become one of them. You know, it's the old story that you've heard that we've heard from time and time again, that, you know, you're only putting yourself down to their level. And so this movie is a really good adaptation to the character. It is dark. And I think that's the way Batman needs to be. Batman needs to be a dark character, because it's not cartoony. This is not a... Comics nowadays are not for kids. And the movies are now starting to reflect that. This is not for children, necessarily. And there was points of this movie that the film only got a PG-13 rating. And there was parts of this movie I thought, you know, they're really pushing the boundaries of the content that's in this film. With, you know, because the language I thought was a lot more harsher. It was... And it was definitely dark in tone. And, of course, Paul Dano playing the Riddler. Again, this is not the Jim Carrey Batman Forever Riddler. This is a Riddler that's a homicidal maniac. And has no problem killing somebody. He's downright scary in some parts, because he's very creepy, he's very dark, very creepy, and hides in the shadows. When he goes to execute his murder, it's like he pops up out of nowhere. The same as Batman, you know, like so how you gonna get, and then they turn and then he's gone. But he's not the antithesis. He's not the antithesis to Batman. He's a very homicidal maniac, and he's not going to stop killing. He's not going to stop with politicians. I mean, he goes after every single Gotham citizen. He has no boundaries of who he's going to take out to expose the corruption. And yeah, it's a really well done film. Matt Reeves taking over as director, and also screenplay with Dylan Clark. Another person who I forgot to mention in this film is Andy Serkis playing Alfred. Playing Alfred the butler. And definitely you see the relationship with Bruce Wayne and Alfred. Definitely is the father-son figure. You know, when Thomas Wayne passed away, who was there? It was Alfred that took Batman in as his own son. And so there's one point where Bruce says, Alfred, you're not my father. And basically tears well up in Alfred's eyes. It says, no, I'm not your father, but you've been like a son to me. And so, yeah, and when there's a crucial point where something bad happens and Bruce Wayne goes to check it out just like a son would to his dad. It's a big dark piece, and it's entertaining, but this is, I think, like I said, the bar, I think, was set so high with Christopher Nolan, and how Christopher Nolan brought in realism and a sense of reality. But the thing with that is, there's still parts where you watch the Christopher Nolan films and go, yeah, right, that's not going to happen. And then you watch this and it's totally believable. Batman is, it's not the same Bruce Wayne that you saw in The Dark Knight, where like Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight had all unlimited technology at his hands. And whatever he didn't have, he was building. In this movie, the technology that Batman has is very primitive. Matter of fact, to say this, the Batmobile, for example, is a souped up car. It's a souped up, I want to say like a souped up Camaro that he put jets on the back. I mean, the thing looks like just like a classic car that's been modified. That's what it is. While, you know, like Christopher Nolan's Batman, the Batmobile it wasn't technically called the Batmobile, it was called the Tumbler, and it was like a tank. It was this huge tank. While in this movie, it's a supercharged car from like the 70s with a rocket attached on the back and can go super fast in the And there's one scene, this isn't spoiling anything, but there's a scene in this film with a car chase with the Penguin. Is spectacular car chase. And the ending to it is just epic. I will caution you, it is a long movie. It is 3 hours in length, like almost like 5 minutes shy of 3 hours. So it is a little long, but there is a couple moments in the film, like if you need to take a pee break, you can do so and not miss anything. But yeah, Matt Reeves did a phenomenal job, and as well as the cast. Robert Pattinson, I think, is quite matured as As an actor, I think he does a phenomenal job of donning the cape and cowl. Yeah, he's grown into quite a mature actor to handle such material. And so, yeah, it's an enjoyable film. I do caution parents. Yeah, even though the film is PG-13, it does kind of push the boundaries in terms of what they show and some of the language. But other than that, it was an enjoyable film. I don't like it as well as The Dark Knight, but it is a good film. It is an enjoyable film. It's better than some of the duds that DC has put out in their checkered past. You know, it's definitely one of the better ones. I will say that. But yeah, do check out the Batman currently playing at your local theater. And so, from me to you, see you later.